A community is just a fundamental human craving, I think, that everyone wants to feel like they're part of something.
I don't know how you can be in marketing or marketing to an audience nowadays without understanding your customer touch points and who your customer is.
So psychographics would be how people group and see themselves within the population. Demographics is going to be on census data, what box you'd tick.
To the level that brands like Gymshark do around what age are they, what are the typical demographics, but also what music are they listening to, when are they on social, where do they hang out on TikTok and things like that.
64% of consumers will expect a reply from a brand within 1 hour of them commenting on a post or sending a message on social. Yeah.
Okay, so today we're talking about community. You hear a lot about community at the moment, and I think from a strategic perspective, it's one of the things we do a lot of work with clients on. And what we're trying to do, I suppose, is to bring together two aspects of community building that we see daily. So that's the social media side, but also the customer experience side. So I guess the first place to begin really is just what is community? What is a community strategy?
Yeah, it's a good question to start with. I think we can't talk about what a community strategy is without first establishing what is a community full stop and being really on the same page with that, because I see a lot of brands that get very confused between what an audience is and what a community is. So an audience to us would be a group of people who have agreed to receive information from you as a brand. A community is going to be people that are much more engaged, are much more grouped by shared interests, shared beliefs, and your brand is facilitating that community and facilitating that conversation, but it's more two-way, it's not just you broadcasting to people. And then off of that, a community strategy would be the plan and tactics that you've got in place as a brand to build that community around your products and services.
Yeah, nice. So why would a business need to pay attention to this?
I think it's so important at the minute because we all know that retention is kind of that buzzword at the minute, but acquisition costs are just going through the roof, and the more we can focus on retaining that customer base and growing that community side of things where people are engaged with your brand, they want to come back, they want more than just purchasing from your brand, the more we don't have to go and spend and continue to keep up with those rates of acquisition. So yeah, retention is just as important as acquisition nowadays.
And the way that would come to life on social specifically would be the dream scenario is you post a piece of content and you've got your customers tagging their friends underneath in that content or recommending you through reviews or sharing to stories, and it's so much cheaper than paying constantly to have new customers come through the door.
Yeah, for sure.
I think a great example of community is Gymshark. When you look at Gymshark as a brand, they have built a community brand. People want to go to Gymshark events. They want to be part of this thing that's bigger than Gymshark, but Gymshark is still at the core of it, and Gymshark is now one of the fastest growing companies in the UK, if not worldwide, and therefore the impact they've had and the retention they have from their customer base is far more because they've built that community.
So from that perspective then, what do you think brands can do, people listening to this, what do you think they could do to kind of be more Gymshark? What tools do you think they've used, or tactics or methods?
I think the main one Gymshark have used is the transparency and the openness that people have to people like Ben Francis, who is the CEO of Gymshark. People feel like they know him, but the events they put on, that kind of community sense of we're training together, but we're going to wear Gymshark clothes doing it. Everyone feels like they're on the Gymshark journey, even if you've never bought a Gymshark product, for example.
I think that point about the offline events that they do as well is really useful to think about, because we talk a lot obviously about digital marketing. There's so much that you can do offline as well that makes people closer on social and other digital channels. So if you've made a friend online in the comments of a Gymshark post, but then you get to meet up at a fitness event, that is just a friendship cemented. And if that friendship has happened because of Gymshark, that's when people are going to have a much more positive impression of you as a brand.
So if you're using social media and in our case customer experience to kind of enhance a brand, to build a community, well, how would you say those two things kind of can interrelate, or do they?
I think they definitely interrelate. I think you need to map out your full customer journey to know where an audience is first finding out about you, and social is one of those places that I think often gets misattributed as not being the first touch point when it might have been. So I see it quite a lot even in my personal social media usage, where I see an influencer post about a brand, or I see someone recommend a brand on stories. In an ideal world, it would be that I then click that, and then I click the link in their bio, and then I go to check out, and you can see that all perfectly mapped out. In reality, maybe like your train's just come, so you close your phone, but you remembered the name of that, so then I Google it and come onto the site that way. So customer journey and the work that Lauren does in customer experience helps to map out all of those different touch points that someone would have seen, where previously social input in that might have been a bit more invisible. You can map how that's working.
Yeah, and I think that is fundamental in terms of mapping out that customer journey, but understanding that not one channel is going to help you grow a community. I mean, email has to play a part, social has to play a part, Google, kind of SEO, paid, all of those have to work together to build that community throughout the customer journey. So we speak quite a lot in terms of loyalty and retention, referrals, how we push people back through to social to get them to be that advocate of the brand back on social and push new customers to the brand. So I think the key is understanding your customer journey. Where are they gonna kind of hang out, and really getting under the skin of that audience. And I don't think you can any longer say that you've just got one persona, that it's so deep and granular, and understanding that audience, and to the level that brands like Gymshark do around what age are they, what are the typical demographics, but also what music are they listening to, when are they on social, where do they hang out on TikTok and things like that. So it's pairing all that together with your customer journey and making sure you have an integrated approach throughout that life cycle.
Because the audience are looking at that as one thing. Like, they don't see your brand as you've got an email department and you've got a social media department.
Exactly.
They're just seeing that an email lands in their inbox, a couple of hours later they saw a social post, and it's one entity to them. So you can't think of it separately because the audience isn't thinking of it separately.
And yet at StrategiQ, that is what we have to do, because we have to look at all the strands that go together to make a big picture for a client.
And how they integrate.
Yeah. So what happens then if, like, from a business perspective, what can go wrong? If I'm not looking at this, what's the sorts of issues you might expect to see?
I don't know how you can be in marketing or marketing to an audience nowadays without understanding your customer touch points and who your customer is. Because without that, where do you start? Well, how do you prioritise channels, or how do you prioritise communication and tone of voice and things like that if you don't understand where your customers are, what they like and dislike, and how you then push them through your customer journey? And without that understanding, you're kind of punching in the dark, because you have no idea. You could be putting out messages which are completely wrong to the audience you're trying to target and on completely wrong channels. So I think you have to be tuned in to the insights, but you also have to be tuned in to the feedback you're getting back from customers and that existing customer base. What are you learning from them? What are they telling you? How often are they purchasing your product? When in the day are they purchasing your product? And learning from that existing data you have as well.
So if you're looking at what your customer is doing and where and when, quite often what happens in a business is, as a business leader, I'm not necessarily looking at that. I'm looking at what my competitors have just done. And you'll often find businesses sort of triggered almost by their competitor and just thinking, oh my God, they've just done a brilliant video campaign, perhaps I need to do a video campaign. Is there any place for that then, that kind of reactive, do what your competitors do?
I think competitor research still comes into your kind of strategy and what you execute, but I think to truly make a mark and make a unique mark in the market, you have to really understand your customers. You have to understand that customer journey. What customers are you going after, but also what are the existing customers telling you? We talk a lot around focus groups and surveys, but also the explicit data you have. What are they purchasing? When are they purchasing? And how is that all coming together to build one picture from that competitive analysis to the kind of concrete data and implicit data you have and the customer journey to then frame that strategy moving forward? And then how do you execute on channels like social, email, paid to ensure that you're getting the competitive advantage that people aren't necessarily doing? And how do you stand out?
I think it can be quite dangerous to look too much at competitors, especially on social, where then you kind of end up with just a massive echo chamber of everyone posting the same content.
The danger, isn't it?
Yeah, and it becomes really dull and really boring. So when we're looking at a social media strategy, we will do a competitor audit, but we'll do that after we've done the customer persona analysis, where we're looking at demographics, but also psychographics of the audience, and we'll do our own ideas on what the content categories should be for that client, and then we can look at what competitors are doing, more of a sense check or any kind of further inspiration, or setting that benchmark for, you know, who's got the most engagement or the most followers that we want to get past. But if you looked just at competitors, you're never going to come up with anything new or original.
Well, and I think if you were looking at Gymshark and you were a fitness brand, there's not going to be another Gymshark come around. And if we look at people like Bloom Wild, who launched the thoughtful marketing movement, that was one of its kind when they did it a few years ago. But every brand has jumped on that bandwagon now, and that it doesn't have the same impact because people are just fed up of being asked if they want to opt out of communication. So where, yes, it's worked for one brand, but does it work for 100? No, you have to find your own uniqueness within the market.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and it's also the timings of when those things happen and so many other circumstances for it. But it's like they also say, don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20, which is really useful to think about with competitor analysis, because we'll have brands that they'll pull their competitors up and say, oh, this is the kind of content that they're posting. And it's like, yeah, they've got 200,000 followers now. If you go back to what they were doing 3 years ago when they were starting out and they didn't have as many followers, their posts were very different, because you can change your content once you've got some kind of audience and community in place. So it's very difficult to compare to competitors that are at different stages.
And to different audiences, community looks different to each of them. So what a community looks like to your competitor's audience will look completely different to yours. And yes, you're a competitor brand, but there are nuances in your audience and they're not going to be exactly the same. How they interact with your brand is not going to be exactly the same. And the friction points that are in your customer journey to get them to that community point are going to be completely different to your competitor. So I think understanding the whole picture is really important as you go through and start to develop this community.
Yeah, because it's not just direct competitors, it's also what is competing for your audience's attention. So if you're Boohoo and you're thinking your competitors are Pretty Little Thing and New Look and, you know, other kind of clothing brands in that price bracket, that's not the full picture, because your audience might also be looking on BuzzFeed or watching the Kardashians or like going to see friends or shopping. You know, there's so many other things that could draw their attention and so many other different accounts and competitors that you need to think about in that sense, beyond just like who's taking your market share.
So do you think that you can build community even when you're marketing business to business?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's not just a e-commerce or B2C area. I think retention, if we pull that word again, is important throughout any business and any industry. And I think the way and methods you develop a community are completely different, obviously, from an e-commerce store to a B2B business, but they're still applicable in terms of events and driving those advocates who in a conversation will mention you as a business and push new business to you. So I think B2B is definitely still there.
Yeah, and I guess in referral schemes as well, that kind of thing, partnership marketing, you probably see it as well.
Yeah, and how you just develop those relationships so they become indispensable. They can't be swayed in a different way, and they're then built up to be that advocate, and they are engaging with you on LinkedIn and things like that. So I don't think it's probably not as easy to develop from a B2B perspective, but it definitely is still an element that B2B businesses should be looking at.
Because B2B as well is still just people to people.
People to people.
Yeah, that we have several clients that are B2B and have communities around them, and we as an agency are in several communities with other agency leaders that I think just because you're working more in B2B, it's still, a community is just a fundamental human craving, I think, that everyone wants to feel like they're part of something.
Yeah, maybe I suppose it's more like just looking at building relationships.
Yeah.
I think thinking about community, I sort of think of a group of people all together and mixing amongst each other. But actually as a business, if I'm building relationships all over the place, that is essentially a community, even if they're not relating to one another.
It could be that it's 20 people who have the same job title as you and work in similar size agencies to you, and you can share your ideas and share the challenges that you've overcome, and that's the community. It doesn't need to be, thousands of people to have a community.
Yeah. Okay, so as a business owner then, if I'm looking at this, where is the first place to begin? What should I be thinking about?
First place to begin would be, to me, mapping out who your audience is and all the different personas that you've got within that audience. And a lot of brands do this for demographics. So they'll look at how old their audience is, they'll look at where they live, they'll look at the job that they have. They won't think about the psychographics. So psychographics would be how people group and see themselves within the population. Demographics is going to be on census data, what box you'd tick. Psychographics is where it gets much more interesting, because that's where you can get into the weeds of making really good, really niche social media content.
Didn't I see something about a farmer the other day in the office? Weren't we looking at, what was that?
Yeah, we'd built out a farmer's customer persona, and you've got in age, location, but you've also got things like, what do they dream about, what do they hope for, what do they worry about? Because if you can build up a full picture of who they are as a person, that's when the content you make for them is more relevant. And when you make really relevant content, that's when you start to build a community, because they see the content come up on their feed and they feel like this was meant for me and it was meant for the other people in this community around me.
Traditional personas are no longer. I think some brands, we see it quite a bit where we get personas come through and we talk about, I don't know, Barry, who has 4 kids and likes to shop on the weekend, but actually personas are so much more detailed than that now. You do have to have those demographics. You really need to understand to the kind of inch granularity around that person, and what music are they listening to, what channels are they tuning into, and what motivates them to shop with your brand versus another brand. But what other brands are they shopping with? Are they a Waitrose customer or a Tesco customer? And how do you then frame every communication uniquely to them?
Yeah, and it seems way too specific to think about, or what music do they like. But then if you apply that to social, if you're creating a reel on Instagram and you've got milliseconds to get someone's attention, and anything that you can add into that post that makes them even subconsciously feel like this is something I want to watch, this was made with me in mind, that makes all the difference to engagement. So if you've got music that is the same music that they've listened to on their commute to work that morning, great. If you're like decades out with what they'd find interesting.
I saw a great example of that a little while ago. The Amazon Christmas ad last year, they used a little Beatles riff, and the ad was talking about, basically they were clearly trying to target the older audience. It was a couple of grannies on a hill, and they were buying sledges off Amazon. And it was just the targeting of the piece of music was so on point. I just thought, that's definitely going to get everyone in that certain age group.
Yeah, exactly, because that's what makes you feel something when
it makes them feel
it.
youthful. Yeah, exactly. It's very clever. When you see it in action, you can sort of really understand why it's working. So there's this kind of distinction I want to talk about between customer support or customer service and customer experience. Is there a difference? Can you do both at the same time? What would you say about that?
There's definitely a difference, and you should definitely be doing both.
That's a short answer.
How's the answer finished?
So customer experience is really looking at the point that customer becomes aware of your brand, all the way through to the point they leave your brand and become inactive, and all of those touch points that sit within that. And the experience that user receives at each touch point. So whether they've just become aware, or they've just made their first purchase, to they've just made their 10th purchase and they're going to a event that you've organised, all of those touch points are really important, and really understanding the friction points within there. So where do you think a customer is going to stumble? Where would, if you were going through that customer journey, struggle within your customer journey? Customer service is where customers have an issue and they need to come to your brand to resolve it. And that is a fundamental part of customer experience, because the quicker you can resolve that and action it, the better the experience will be. But it is a part of customer experience. It's not customer experience as a whole. And when we talk around customer experience, we're talking around how do we look at data and trends and channels to then trigger at the right time to the right person with the right message. I think where brands fall down on customer service is where they're not connected, or they don't understand the friction points or customer journey that sits behind that customer service. So how can you use platforms like Gorgeous to really pull your customer service together?
What does Gorgeous do?
So Gorgeous is a customer service platform, and they pull in key channels where customers could raise complaints. So they would have a social all pull into one platform. They would have phone calls come into one platform, emails, text messages, however your customers could contact customer support. And it means for a customer service agent, they only have to look at one place, and they can pull up kind of all the order history that person's had, when they ordered, what they ordered, and it just makes that experience of, oh yeah, I can see you ordered.
That's really powerful.
This. Yeah. Of course, we can trigger a refund, or they can automate responses based on the sentiment of the message, or escalate it depending on the sentiment of the message. So it's really important that you address your customer service, but it has to be a part of a bigger picture, and as part of the tech stack you also put in place. At StrategiQ, we talk a lot around brand and tech and customer experience strategy, but if your tech isn't right to support your customer experience, if your brand's not right to support your customer experience, then it's not all working together, and that all has to work together to be able to deliver an exceptional customer experience across channels like social, email, paid.
The social's always the first place people complain, isn't it?
Yeah.
If they don't, well, actually, it's probably not the first. If they don't get what they want,
yeah,
you'll often see them complaining on social.
It's an easy access thing to tweet a brand when something's gone wrong with customer service, but it's also, I think, really important these days with customer service and customer experience to think about how in years gone by, if someone called up your brand to complain about something, that's probably just going to end with that phone call. Maybe they tell a couple of friends that they were unhappy about it. Now, if someone gets a bad customer experience, they can just screenshot the messages they were sent, they can take a picture or a video of whatever happened in store, and if that gets posted online and you know, travels everywhere, then it's not just a bad customer experience for that one person anymore. It's gone beyond, and loads of people have seen it.
Because we're all kind of used to that, you know, when you ring up a customer service line, it's like these calls will be recorded. But what I think has flipped now is that the customer might also be recorded.
Yeah, exactly. And
that really does make a difference.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you brought up the difference, because this is a bugbear of mine on social, that people don't see the difference between customer service on social and community management on social. So customer service would be someone's delivery is late and they send a message and they complain that their delivery is late. Right. A traditional customer service team is using a platform like Gorgeous or another customer service platform, and they are trying to reply as quickly as possible, and they're trying to clear as many tickets as possible of where customers have got involved. So they don't want to start a conversation with this person. They want to just say, this is where your delivery is, this is when it's happening, by type approach.
And I think from a customer perspective, that's all a customer wants as well.
Yeah.
They don't want
to make friends.
Yeah, how was your day?
Just solve the problem quickly and I'll get on with my day.
Yeah, exactly. Where that falls down is when you get more conversational comments on a post that a customer service person isn't going to care about, because it's not a customer directly raising an issue, but a social media manager or a community manager, that's like gold dust to them, that someone from the audience has commented something nice, and that's where they're looking to strike up that conversation and get more engagement on the posts and kind of boost that community feeling. So I see so many brands that confuse this, and they'll put someone from customer services into more of a community management role, and they'll ask them to reply to everything on social, and they don't know how. You need that social media manager skill set as well as a customer service skill set to have those two different things happening together.
So that sounds like quite a lot of resource for a business to cope with. Is it really needed? Can somebody not do both jobs?
I think it's 100% needed, that you need to. If you want to build a community, you need to have a community manager or a social media manager that partly does community, looking at your social media posts, making sure that every single comment and message is replied to, and then actually proactively going into other forums and other groups to engage on behalf of your brand to bring people back into your community. And just not enough brands do it. 64% of consumers will expect a reply from a brand within 1 hour of them commenting on a post or sending a message on social. Yeah,
Yikes.
It's speedy. And there's so many brands that if you went on their page today and looked at their most recent post, you'd see lots of comments that are completely not answered, which is like the equivalent of, you know, if we were at a networking event and I went up to say hi and you just completely walked off and ignored me.
You.
Yeah, I'm not going to say hi to you at the next networking event. And it's the same with community management on social. People, you know, brands wonder why people aren't commenting on their posts. And it's like, well, you didn't reply to any of their comments last time, so why are they going to comment again? It's embarrassing for them to get ignored as a person, as a consumer. So yeah, in my mind, that's completely why you need both of these elements working together.
Yeah, it's quite subtle, isn't it? You kind of, I think from a business perspective, you often wouldn't really necessarily know to value that, know to prioritise it.
Yeah, but the insights that you get from your community manager, they're speaking to your customers every single day. They're on the absolute front line. You cannot predict what people are going to ask you on social through comments and messages. There'll always, every week, be something different that you learn about your customer from those interactions. So we've actually recommended before that the community manager or social media manager sits right next to the CEO or the CMO, so that when meetings are happening, discussing, you know, what would this customer like, what would this person like, your social media manager knows those people because they speak to them every day.
Yeah.
So you need to involve them in those conversations so that they can answer those questions for you.
Exactly.
I think that comes back to customer journey sessions as well. Different people within the business have different responsibilities. So a social media manager will have completely different insights to a customer service manager versus an email manager versus paid media manager. And having all of them in the room, from ops director to those marketing channels, to customer service manager, is really important, because they all understand and see different aspects of the customer, and therefore we have to make sure that we bring those along and into a considered customer journey.
I think that literally describes why you would even do this. That describes the essence of the kind of community management and the strategic aspect behind why you would do it. Brilliant.